I am Tony. I'm Tony Bradburn, and I recently found out that I'm a Burgos, a Bradburn by bond and a Burgos by blood. You see, I was adopted when I was 6 months old by the Bradburns in Elgin, Illinois. And just recently, at 48 years old this year, I was able to find my birth father, his wife, and their 3 children, my half-siblings. So why am I telling you all this? Well, because there's a lesson to be learned in the experience of being adopted and, to some extent, in the experience of finding birth family. I've always seen family as a unit that's cultivated by a million little things. My family looked at each other. We laughed at each other's jokes. We saw each other. We encouraged each other when times were tough. And this is where the lesson is. It's the looking, it's the laughing, it's the encouraging, it's the affirming that create family. Most people think of family, though, as blood, the family that we're born into. But that has never been my lens. Never. Family's crafted and cultivated by the million little things that we do. The encouraging words, the affirmations, the thoughtful moments. And if we think about all of our relationships that way, we can elevate the way we interact with each other. Because here we are, every day, moving through all these micro spaces of life. You might be on teams, you have coworkers, you have colleagues, you have peers in social circles and in volunteer groups. So we move among all these spaces, and if we actually adopt in those spaces, we can elevate the way we connect and care for people. So, I'm a recovering English teacher, so we are going to stop and pause and actually look at this word adopt. It's really 2 parts. So ad means to, and opt means choose or desire. So adoption literally means we're choosing each other. Isn't it interesting that it means both choose and desire? Well, the reality of it is that we're not doing a great job as a society of adopting people at this moment. If you look at 2023 Gallup poll, you can see that 1/3 of the population has been diagnosed with depression. Diagnosed with depression at some point in their life. That's right, 1 in 3 diagnosed with depression. Also, you might look at students and students who are chronically absent. That number, according to a 2022 report by McKinsey & Company, was 20%. So about 1 in 5 of our students are chronically absent, which means 15 days or more, according to this study. 1 in 5. What could we do as a community to reach out to these students and make sure that they attend school so that they can thrive? Or domestic violence. Every minute, 20 people are victims of domestic violence by an intimate partner. 20 people a minute totals 10 million women and men each year. Just think what life could be like if we could create safe havens for these people. So, when I said before that we need adopting relationships, it's because of the reality that we're interacting with all these people every day. We're interacting with those people that I just spoke about. So, if we adopt, we can actually elevate those relationships and create more caring relationships. So, what does this actually look like? Well, the first step is to connect. See people, like literally look at them. Not what it is that you think that maybe they should be, or the sort of attitude that you think they should have, but just see them exactly as they are. When I told you earlier that I was adopted and I was able to find my paternal parents, well, I went down to the Dominican Republic to do that. And when I went there, They saw me. They hugged me. They looked at me. They heard my stories. They studied my facial expressions. And they actually put 2 bottled waters in the bathroom because they knew that the water that they could so freely drink would mess me up. So they saw me, not the story of who they think that I should be, but who I really was. And if you look at organizational behaviorist Kathy Phillips' research, you'll see there that one important insight that she found is that looking at people is a clear indicator of how inclusive they are. So I've come to rely on this research when I'm in interviewing situations. When I'm interviewing someone, is this person actually looking at me? Do I feel connected to them in that moment? Because I know if I'm feeling connected to them in that moment, they will likely be more inclusive in other circles. So connect. Actually, look at people. Not some version of that person, but who they really are in that exact moment of their lives. The next step is to allow. Allow people to be different than what you expect. Be different than what you think is appropriate or what you might even approve of. So allow is this next step of how we can create adopting relationships. Think about my Black community. When my Black community is given the space to yearn or to express discomfort and displeasure, I feel more connected and more grounded in that space. So allow the LGBTQIA+ community the space to express themselves, or Middle Eastern, or asylum seekers, or Muslims, or Latine, or AAPI. Allow them a space to express themselves just as they are, regardless of whether you think it's appropriate or you approve of it. Because an allowing mindset gets us to a space where we can reach. So once we've practiced connecting and allowing with circles that we're somewhat familiar with, then we're able to reach. We're able to reach across and connect with people that maybe we wouldn't normally. When I first moved into my neighborhood, there was a couple that came across the street with just a little box of chocolate. And this small gesture gave me a sense of home and a sense of relieved stress I didn't even know I was carrying. It just like washed off my shoulders with a little box of chocolate. They reached out across the street to people that did not look like them. In fact, most of the people in that neighborhood did not look like me. And that small expression helped me to feel at home and at ease. And if you think about it, this is the crux of the show Undercover Boss. When these executives connect, allow, and reach out to employees that they normally wouldn't connect with and see, their hearts are softened to the realities of the workplace and the people in it. And then they want to just generously improve the lives of others. It's because they connected, they allowed, and they reach. The last step of adopted relationships that's important for us to understand is this idea of engage. Engage. Not just kind of have small talk and interact, but engage. The other day, I pulled my car into a restaurant, and this guy was totally looking at me. It was obvious, okay? He was with his wife. I was with a friend. He was looking at me, and then he looked at my car. And then he looked at me, and then he looked at my car. And I don't blame him, okay? My car is glorious, all right? It's an electric SUV built for adventure, and I love it, okay? I love it. I could talk about it all day. But what ended up happening is he asked me a couple questions. Here this guy was. He looked very different than me, okay? And same with his wife. And we exchanged just a couple thoughts. And then that led to us sitting down and eating together. The entire meal, we talked about this car and parts of our lives, and it was fantastic. They were still intrigued, though, so I gladly showed them some of its features. This turned into the four of us strangers going for a ride. Okay. This turned into us exchanging contact information. And this turned into us having a group chat called Anti-Stranger Danger. We still talk. And this is what we do when we create adopting relationships. When we choose and we care, we can actually mend the dysfunction in our society. We can't just interact. We have to care. And when we do this, we can change the world. So, you can audit your records. You can look at your calendar. You can look at your bank accounts to see how you're doing with auditing. And you can make deliberate choices to actually adopt and care. So when I started this talk, I talked about my birth family, and I talked about the Burgoses. So just this year, at the age of 82, my father and I decided to engage in a woodworking project. At 82 years old, he decided to care. He chose to share a gift with me. And, you might be sitting here thinking, hey, I might have some sort of identity factor that I think excludes me from caring. Maybe it's age, like my father. Maybe it's gender. Maybe it's sexual orientation. Maybe it's all sorts of things. But that's the beauty about care. Everyone can do it. I also told you about how I visited the Dominican Republic to actually meet my birth family. And this is Poppy, on the day of my departing flight. Well, prior to this, it had been pouring rain, and he goes to work on a motorcycle. So I honestly wasn't sure he was going to come home to accompany me to the airport. Well, at one moment, I actually hear the sound of the motorcycle as I'm waiting at the house. And I knew that sound. The next visual I remember was him standing in the doorframe, wiping off the glasses from the rain. His wife mopping behind him as he went to change clothes. Well, this is us at the airport. He insisted on parking the car and walking me to the ticket counter. And as you can see, he also insisted on carrying my luggage. So Poppy chose to kind of adopt me back through his deliberate actions. What will you do today to adopt and to care? Now again, you might think, well, I don't have an amazing skill. I'm not a woodworker. I don't have something like that I can share with someone. Well, it doesn't take any particular magic to walk someone to a ticket counter. We all can care. We all can adopt. What's the one thing you'll do today?